Well, hello and welcome to this amazing segment. Today, we're going to have a really big conversation, and I've got some amazing people here. My name is Marshall Harris, and I'm excited that you've decided to tune in. So I'm going to introduce our guests because today we're going to have a very necessary conversation. And we've partnered, Big Brothers Big Sisters, with the NFL Inspired Change Initiative, and we're bringing it together right here in the heart of Nashville, Tennessee, at the Titans headquarters. So if you know anything about the NFL, you of course know about the Tennessee Titans, and we have the honor of being with them today. So right here, I have Mr. Adolpho Birch he is the Chief External and League Affairs Officer with the Tennessee Titans. Pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here.
And then, of course, I have right here our local CEO of Melissa Hudson Gant of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Middle Tennessee. Glad to have you here.
Fantastic to be here.
Absolutely. And then we have our national CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, Mr. Artis Stevens. And it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So let's just jump right into this conversation because there's so much happening with our youth. And obviously Big Brothers Big Sisters is at the pivotal part of that conversation. And then of course the NFL is joining in with Big Brothers Big Sisters to even expand that message across the nation. So I want to ask a really simple question that I think everybody can jump in on. What is mentorship to you? And why is it important for our youth? I'll start with you, Melissa.
Okay. For me, mentorship is what we've been doing since the dawn of man. It is the older generation pouring into the younger generation, sharing their wisdom and guidance, the lessons that they've learned along the way, being a support system, showing care, love, and it's empowerment. It's giving some additional support, having somebody in their corner as they're exploring who they are and who they want to be.
Yeah. Artis, what do you think mentorship is and why is it important?
I just wish I just could have stole Melissa's answer and just said, hey, did all of that. But I'll build from that, right? One word comes to mind for me, connection, right? It's the power of connection of relationships. It's the power of connection of those relationships that connect you to your broader community. It's the power of connection from the standpoint of who you are to where you're going, right? Connection. And this idea for me in terms of mentorship is one that is powerful for both the young person in our sense in terms of how adults and volunteers get impacted, but it's also reciprocal, right? And I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people in our network, volunteers, mentors, what we call bigs, that this idea that the young person has just as much impact on their life that they have on the young person's life, right? That's connection, that's power. And I think for me, that's what mentorship creates. It creates this opportunity for connection, and then that connection builds to a greater impact across our communities.
Oh, that's awesome. Adolpho, what would you say mentorship is?
Well, so I think I probably would build a little bit off that same concept and think, to me, I see it as two things. One is taking interest in someone, right? And that just means being prepared and wanting to understand what they are, what they're about, taking interest in that person's future or their present. And then it's receiving interest from, right? The idea is that you are gaining along the way, to your point. It's you're gaining along the way in that same conversation. You're learning about somebody, you're understanding about something, and you're allowing somebody to really kind of get to know more about you and be invested in your future and your present. And so to me, it's the combination of those two things. That's what mentorship is.
That's incredible. You know, and because mentorship is so important, the NFL has partnered with Big Brothers Big Sisters of America to launch the NFL Inspired Change Initiative, the Big Draft. Now, of course, we know that there's a big draft every year with the NFL, but Big Brothers Big Sisters is taking a different angle with that and drafting mentors, people who are invested in the future leaders and citizens of our country. And I believe there was a goal of 6,000 bigs nationwide in 60 days. And from what I've been hearing, we're almost to that goal, right?
We're getting close, my friend.
So how did that happen? How did that come together? How did that conversation begin? Artis, can you speak to that?
Yeah, so the relationship with the NFL really stems back to 2019, right? And it was part of Inspire Change, which is the social justice initiative with the NFL. And one of the things that they wanted to do was to think about, well, how do they create and eliminate barriers, right, to give more access to community, young people, families, other extensions around the communities. And what we fell in is really around educational access, right, for young people, getting them more developed, getting them more empowered in the work that we're doing. But what we found with the NFL was that there's this unique set of values, right? Every single NFL market there is a Big Brothers Big Sisters that's connected with it. Just right here in Nashville with the Titans in our local agency and the great work that's happening here, you see that replicated. But the other thing is there's value because we have a lot of players who are also alums, right, of Big Brothers Big Sisters program. So the natural values of these two brands and these two missions align with each other. And I always say that's where you start. It has to be authentic, it has to be value. And then what we built to say, well, how can we take that value and that alignment and do something that's really great and impactful for community? So one of the big things that we did is what you just shared was, well, if we have a challenge, which is getting more mentors and particularly men into our organization, and the NFL says, hey, we have a way to be able to engage men much more effectively. How do we bring those together to create both social impact and also experience, right, for people who want to get involved? And now we are on year 3 of Big Draft, and this year is the most successful. And yes, we are really close to getting past that 6,000. I think we're going to break 6,000, to be honest with you.
I believe so. I believe so. That's incredible because there is such a huge need for our young people to have mentors and people who are truly invested in not just their future, but even in their present. And I think that's incredible that the NFL has come together with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And I think that goal is going to get broken. I think we're almost there.
It's going to get broken on the day of at the event at our state.
There we go. There we go. You heard it here first. So
That's right.
You heard it right here. We're going to break that record.
Now
That's
I got to
incredible.
go do some work.
No pressure. No pressure at all. I'm going to ask this question to you, Adolpho, because when we think of how fans add to the player's experience, both on and off the field, how important is it for a child to have someone who cheers for them in life?
Well, look, I think to the same extent fans matter in a game, they matter in your life. And you have to have people who cheer for you. You have to have people who support you, who can lift you up in the times when you're down or you're unsure of yourself. And for kids in particular, you really got to have people who just champion you and want you to be the best you can be. And like I was saying before, it's somebody who can both take interest in you, but also receive that interest from the kid. And to me, it's those two things that just really make a difference in somebody's life. And, it's not always big things, it's just things. And I think that's probably part of what you guys try to stress when you're talking about the value of being a big. It's not big in the grand sense. It's big it's just a lot. Things. Get involved. And so, from our standpoint, it is that same sort of supportership, folks that'll ride or die with you, as they say, folks who understand that being at the game and yelling at the field can help. If you don't believe that, you're not the right person to be a fan for us. Same way, if you don't believe that by being around that kid, you can help that kid and, help him or her to their best, to be their best, then maybe you're not the right for that. So to me, it's really important that you have that sort of idea and that fundamental understanding of just be involved and just try to listen because it is helpful beyond measure.
That's powerful. Melissa, what would you say to that?
I want to hit on a couple of things that Adolpho said. It is so powerful to have a cheerleader and someone who chose to be your cheerleader, right? It's not like your parent, it's not your brother, your sister, your aunt and uncle. It's someone who said, I think you are a cool human being and I'm here for you. I'm going to show up and be there. And also kind of expanding on it's the show up part. It isn't that you need to spend a lot of money. It isn't that you need to create some really unusual experience for you and your mentee to do together. It's that you show up and you care and you're there and you're consistent. And that's the power of mentoring and the power of volunteering through Big Brothers Big Sisters. And that other thing I think that is so special about our programming is that we're professionally supported. So you have staff that are there that are training, coaching, and supporting you and the young person in the development of your relationship along the way. And then another thing I think is one of the most powerful things about this program is that you're connecting two human beings who would otherwise not know each other. So there are people from different communities and different backgrounds. So in addition to building that relationship and empowering both, to your point, the big and the little, it's also really building community.
Yeah. Melissa, you are at the helm of the conversation in leading about youth and empowerment across Middle Tennessee, which is one of the fastest growing regions in the country. So no pressure on you either. But you are sitting in the hot seat for that, right? And you're having these conversations and you're hearing about the impact of society on our youth and how social media is influencing our youth and all of the different influences that they have. What are some challenges that you're seeing when you're out in the community and you're serving? What are you seeing? What challenges are you seeing that our youth are facing that maybe you didn't even have to face when you were growing up?
Oh, goodness. This is a really challenging time to be a young person. I did not, I'm not going to tell you when I grew up, but I did not grow up with the internet and social media. The amount of information that young people get and the speed at which they get it, and their brains are not developed enough to process it at the speed in which they receive. The Surgeon General has shared that we are in a nationwide crisis for mental health for our young people, compounded by the pandemic and the distance that created with young people from their peers and their school and their community. It's a serious challenge, and I see that in young people and families in schools. They're very concerned about this and how we really lean into that. We've had a decline in young people enrolling in college, and particularly boys. They have become because they are feeling disconnected and they lack hope. And so it's really our responsibility to step in and help them navigate this very unusual and challenging time that we've all been living through together.
Wow. Now, Artist, you sit in a different seat because you travel the nation and you're seeing things from a regional perspective, from a national perspective. What challenges are you seeing that youth are facing across our nation?
Yeah, well, I would say what Melissa just said is so key across the country, right? And then I was listening to someone talk about this, that we have all of these things that we've invented and designed to make us more connected, and in some ways we become even more isolated, right? With the design of some of these things where we are using social media, but we're behind screens versus in person or engaging with people. And I think there's something important to be said about young people, right? When we look at young people, we're seeing what's been happening since the pandemic with our youth, right? And particularly with the growth of our organization, we are our fastest growing population that we're serving nationally today. We traditionally serve 5 to 18. Fastest growing population is 18 to 25. And then everyone says, well, wait, why is that? Because what's happened is that the young people that we traditionally serve from 5 to 18 are staying with us. And they're asking the question, what's next? How do I navigate? How do I fill out that FAFSA form? How do I interview for that next job, right? What's the right way to do it? And then now what our agencies, what our local big brothers, big sisters are doing, say, we're going to respond to this, right? So now we're creating a much more career development program. It's still based in our mentorship model, right? So the relationship always comes as priority, but it's how do we add to that? How do we ensure that now we're helping the kids to navigate the challenges that they have, that we're putting a lens in terms of mental health and mental health support and working with community partners, that we're having a lens towards equity, right? And understanding that everybody doesn't always have the same lived experience. So we have to make sure that the way we connect with them is the way that we're meeting them and not asking them to meet us in every respect, in every way. And then we're thinking about the broader sense of how the family connects in with the volunteer, with the staff person, with community partners, building an ecosystem around young people, because I truly believe in this model that it takes a village to raise a kid, right? And that's what Big Brothers, Big Sisters does so successfully.
Yeah, and I just want to kind of add to that. I'm so glad you talked about the ecosystem around the young person. Really, one of the things that we want to do is create social capital for our young folks. Every single job I've ever had has been because I knew someone, with the exception of a job I got in a mall when I was 16 years old. I had to have the chops and I had to show up and be able to do a great job, but I got in the door because of someone that I knew. And that's what we can offer our young people or young adults, is a bridge to experience and opportunity. And we've got a really big, pun intended, network across the nation, and we really want to tap into that.
Yeah, that's so important. Right now, what would you say? You see a lot of athletes. You see them from the first time when they walk on the field. You see them as they retire. You've seen all stages of that. How has mentorship impacted their professional and personal growth, do you feel?
Well, look, I think you can't be a good football player. You can't be in the NFL if you are not both a mentee and a mentor. because the nature of the environment, the burdens of how you go about being successful on the field require someone to take that role on to help you along the way. It's just not you could think of it in contrast to some individual sports where maybe it is simply the training that person can do by themselves and just sort of, work on their craft alone. In the NFL, it is ultimately the ultimate team game. And everybody has to be on the same page. And everybody has to do what they're supposed to do. And that process requires people that can help you learn through mistakes, can help you sort through adversity, can help you optimize performance, all of the types of things you think about from a mentorship perspective, help you cope with loss. All of those things are things that you need someone, whether it's a coach, whether it's a position coach, whether it's a teammate that's more senior than you need somebody that can help you do that. And then for all our guys along that journey, they've got people that they're helping. They've got their kid they know that's in high school now that is really looking up to them and really trying to understand how potentially to be like them. And they have to use that and they have to work with that kid. And so I think football is just a really textbook example of how mentorship works, sort of to help an organization or an entity or, society generally, when you look at it in that way.
You said something that I believe is so key, and I know that you guys probably picked up on this too, is that even athletes have real life that happens. You mentioned loss and just things that we don't think about. A lot of times you just think about the athlete for what you see them as on the field or, if they scored a touchdown or what have you, but we never really think about sometimes they may be going on that field and they just lost a grandparent, or maybe there's something going on in their personal lives and how mentorship impacts that. That's really powerful. Melissa, what is happening right here in Middle Tennessee between the Tennessee Titans and Big Brothers Big Sisters of Middle Tennessee? There's some great connection, some great activity that's happening between the two organizations. Can you speak to that really quick?
I sure can. We have had a really long relationship with the Titans, a long partnership. We've had leadership serve on our board of directors. We've had multiple folks serve as bigs, from athletes to behind the scenes staff, as well as leadership. And right now we are partnering to launch a really big recruitment initiative called the Big Draft. It is on the field at Nissan Stadium on the evening of April 27th, and we're having an open call to the community for all those people who feel drawn to invest in young people to learn more about Big Brothers Big Sisters and our mentoring programs. And we're specifically targeting men. Because at any given time, we've got between 100 and 130 young people on our waiting list. 70% of those young folks are boys, and about 70% of them are boys of color. So we really need men to step in and show up and invest in these young people.
That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Why do you think now is the time?
Well, I think now is the time because it's always the time.
Yeah.
It's not, there is no not a time. And so I think this is, as much as is going on right now, it is a particularly keen opportunity for us to really dig in deep and try to move the needle. And this is a way to do that. This event's going to be outstanding. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to have, we have some of our I'll tell you that Jeffrey Simmons is going to be around, and he is going to personally thank and deal with those who have decided to follow through and become bigs. We have had a long partnership, as you said, and I think for us it's about not only being a part of it from a staff perspective and our own sort of commitment to service as an organization, but it's about reflecting that commitment to service throughout our community, and that we know that by having staff or our players or our coaches involved, that helps to let a lot of other people understand that they need to get involved and that they can get involved. And so we really look forward to it.
That's awesome. I hope that you guys are enjoying this right now because we have a few more questions that I'm going to ask. But right now, I want you to take a moment to share this if you're watching it on social media, because more people need to hear what's happening in this conversation right now. So take a moment and click share. And I want to get right back into it. So, Melissa, obviously in the last week, we had a huge event happen right here in Middle Tennessee that has happened, and we've seen it all over the country, but it's different when it hits home. So in light of the recent school shooting in Nashville, can you just talk a little bit about why mentorship is so critical for a child's development and growth, especially when they deal with trauma like that?
Absolutely. This is a horrific tragedy. It makes no sense. There's no sense to be made, and young people have to process that. School is supposed to be a safe place, and young people have felt fearful, like the place that they went to on a regular basis that's such a critical part of their life, that safety has been taken away, and they are unsure about who to trust and to make sense of the things that have happened. So mentorship is really important for folks to step in and say, this is a tough and scary thing for adults, and it's a tough and scary thing for kids, and we're going to get through this together. And then I'll also say, lost and broken people hurt people. So don't let our people get lost. When you feel like you are connected and you have roots to your community, that's when you are able to pour your talent back into the community. But when you are disconnected, you have nothing to lose and you are adrift alone. And that's when that individual in our community is really in a dangerous place. So mentorship is part of preventing these types of tragedy from occurring in the first place. So it's both processing what happened and it's also upstream prevention.
Yeah. Artists, as you have probably dealt with this from a national level and just seeing this happen in various markets that Big Brothers Big Sisters is present in, what conversation should community leaders be having right now?
One of the things that we do, we have an initiative called Relationship Responders. It is a initiative where we go into communities where there's been traumatic events that take place. Certainly the tragic events here in Nashville, when George Floyd was murdered, right? We brought community leaders together, social practitioners, young people, teachers, educators, but all around the same idea, which is how do we as a solution build this type of structure that supports young people and supports a stronger community, right? And here's what I'll say, because I think Melissa hit it on the head in terms of both sides of the coin in terms of what mentorship plays. Here's another aspect of it, right? And think about it from a natural disaster standpoint. When natural disasters take place, right, anywhere around the world, right, from an individual perspective, you want to do something, right? It could be somewhere far away from where we are, but you want to do something. And then maybe there's a donation, maybe there's some type of contribution that you make to support what's happening in that natural disaster. Well, think about these types of situations as these disastrous situations. And people want to do something, but maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they feel paralyzed about what to do. There are things that you can do individually to make a difference, right? And it may not be hey, here's the one cure-all, right? But together, it can be really powerful. So the opportunity that mentorship provides is an opportunity for you to get personally engaged in a way that you can contribute, a way that you can make a difference, so that it doesn't feel like so daunting that there's nothing we can do about it. How many times have we heard that, right? There's nothing we can do about this situation. There's no way, and absolutely, there are many people that will talk about all the different ways that you can support situations that occur and prevent them. But one thing that you can do is make a difference in the life of someone else, right? Contribute in the life of someone else. So it creates that vehicle for all of us to get engaged. And that's what we talk about nationally.
That's an incredible conversation.
And I also want to say that's just to build off that, it's a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. One person matters. One person destroyed 7 families. If we could lean into that one person and do some prevention, as well as leaning into the person who can go support other people eventually, because we've poured into them and we've prepared them for that. So one individual action, to your point, really has an enormous impact.
It really does. Adolpho, you said something a second ago. You said that it's never not the time. And so right now, I know the Titans is working with Big Brothers Big Sisters, but the Titans is doing a lot to support the young people of Middle Tennessee and abroad. So what are some things that the Tennessee Titans are committed to right now when it comes to impacting young people in their lives?
Well, I think we have a lot of different things, if you kind of take it in the buckets, we have things that focus on youth athletics, right? Because we do think that physical health is as important as mental health, and that it's important to do things like we're helping to start a girls flag, to make girls flag a sport in the high schools here in town, and that, of course, to us is more than mere physical exercise. It's about empowerment. It's about showing people, and particularly young girls, that there are avenues available for them to participate in the game that we love, but also in a game that allows them to get exercise and be a part and learn a lot of the things that I was talking about earlier with respect to discipline and teamwork and learning how to deal with adversity. All of those things that we think flag football and any football can help produce. We're focused on mental health. We are setting up different programs that will allow youth and young folks to get and learn about mental health care, and get clinicians involved who can actually go out and sort of be first responders to understand what might be going on in a kid's life and pull them aside and maybe talk to them and figure out how to get them more resources. We're doing things with helping our parks, which, if you think about community centers and other things that allow kids those safe spaces to come and flourish and go after school and enjoy themselves and partake of what would be a broader community maybe than they're seeing in other places. The ability to help those entities and those groups thrive and have the best facilities and the best resources available for kids is an area that we're certainly interested in as well. It really could go on and on. Our central mission is service. And what we try to do is look at that through the lens of everybody in this community. But it all starts with the young people. I mean, I think anybody that's really ultimately looking at how to build and impact a community, it starts from the kids, and you work your way up from there. And so that's how we've approached most of the things that we're trying to do.
That's incredible. Adolpho said it starts with the kids.
Starts with the kids.
So what's Big Brothers Big Sisters doing right now to continue to impact youth across the country?
Yeah, so very, very focused on how we continue to grow and grow with impact, right? So a lot of our work is about how we ensure that our programs are continuing to expand and reach kids in different ways, right? So we've been traditionally a one-to-one mentoring organization. That's not going to change, right? We're going to go deeper. We're going to be stronger in our one-to-one mentoring, but we also have to ensure that we have a portfolio of mentoring that meets kids where they are, as I said before. Is some of that potentially group mentoring? Absolutely. Is some of that more focused on career mentoring? Is it technology enhanced mentoring, right? But being able to ensure that we as a leader in this space can continue to support where kids are, what their families are, and also importantly, how our bigs and volunteers want to get engaged and want to get connected in young people's lives. So we're going to see a lot of growth in that space. We're also working a lot in terms of volunteer engagement, right? So Melissa talked about men and engaging men. So a lot of our focus is going to be on men. We got 20 million alumni out there, right? 20 million that are out there, that's been connected, that's been impacted. So we are launching a lot of efforts really about how we bring men, how we bring people of all background experiences back into our programs and provide much more resources to them. And then the last thing I really want to talk about is this really strong focus on programming that's helping young people to get into the pipeline. Career and workforce development, and really supporting our economy, supporting our communities, and supporting our connections, teaching kids that there are many ways that you can go. Not everybody's going to go to 4-year college, and that's okay, right? But can we provide opportunities for education, from employment, for entrepreneurship, right, for enlistment, but ensuring that we have mentorship programs that support the community and support the pathway for young people in this country.
That's awesome. I'm going to give you all 1 to 2 sentences to talk to our young people. All of you have made it in your careers. You're in great places. What is one thing you would say to a young person right now?
It's a good question. I think I would say that always take one extra breath. I think that's probably what I would say. Because I think, to me, the biggest thing, if I'm looking back when I was younger and looking at some kids today, you place too much concern on whatever just happened, whatever that might be. It's a little too much on that. And the idea to me would be to just take one step back every time, and you will almost undoubtedly learn that it wasn't that bad. Or maybe sometimes it wasn't that good, but either way, you'll be in a much more even sort of keel and able to focus on what your next step should be, more so than worrying about the step that just happened. That's off the top of my head what you forced me to do.
Melissa?
I think embrace failure. Failure is an opportunity to learn. It is rarely cataclysmic. Life is not a straight line, and you can always change your mind and pivot. You're always changing as a human, and who you think you are today, you're going to be a very different person in 5 or 10 years. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to take left turns and right turns in circles. And I know a lot of very successful people who have become successful because they learn from their failures.
Awesome. Artist, final?
I would tell them what I told my 2 girls, 15 and 13, and what I've told them every morning that they get up since they were in preschool, to be smart and beyond your books, but about the decisions that you make in life. To be strong beyond the sense of physical strength, but to have the character and the integrity to guide through life. To be kind to others that are around you, but also to start at home with yourself, because it emanates from who you are and how you're kind and how you treat yourself. And then finally, to be you, to be your authentic self, to be what you are, to identify and be proud of it, screaming out loud, and don't apologize for it.
That's incredible. I want to thank you all for joining me today, and I want to thank you guys for watching. And if you're ready to get in the game, you can do that right now by visiting www.bbbs.org/big draft. And if you're right here in Middle Tennessee, you can visit www.mentorakid.org. My name is Martrell, and I'm so glad that you decided to tune in. Thank you for watching.